In 5 minutes or less, let's see if we can go over some of the main concepts from Chapter 4 of our textbook. So Chapter 4 is all about categorical propositions and the inferences we can make based off them and the operations we can do on them. So let's start with the 4 standard form categorical propositions. We have our A form categorical proposition, we have our E form categorical proposition, we have our I form categorical proposition, and finally our O form categorical proposition. In the Venn diagrams which represent them, where a shaded region means it's empty and an X means there's at least one entity in that region. The quality of a proposition can be affirmative or negative, and the quantity of a proposition can be universal or particular. You can see here I labeled each proposition with whether it's universal or particular and affirmative or negative. Finally, we can consider the distribution of terms within a proposition, and I've highlighted which terms are distributed in which type of proposition here. Distribution refers to whether the statement makes a claim about all members of the class. So next, we can talk about the Boolean standpoint, which does not make an existential presupposition. This means that, for example, when we say all S or P, we're not necessarily assuming that S even exists. There are some immediate inferences that we can make. These are exemplified on the modern square of opposition. The A claim and the corresponding O claim, as well as the I claim and the corresponding E claim, are contradictory. That means if one is true, the other is false, and vice versa. Those are going to be some of the immediate inferences that we can make on the Boolean standpoint. Next, we can look at the parts of a categorical proposition in order to see some of the operations that we can perform on propositions. So we have a quantifier, a subject, a copula, and a predicate. First, we can look at conversion, which is where we simply switch the subject with the predicate. So all S or P becomes all P or S. And then we can look at obversion, which is where we change the quality of the proposition and we replace the predicate term with its term complement. A term complement is basically the opposite of the thing. So cats becomes non-cat if we're replacing with a term complement. To change the quality, that's going to look at changing the quantifier for A and E terms and changing the copula for the I and O propositions. And in all kinds of propositions, we're going to replace the predicate with the term complement. Next, contraposition simply switches the predicate and subject terms and also replaces them both with their term complement. Next, we can look at the Aristotelian standpoint, which, unlike the Boolean standpoint, does make an existential presupposition. So, for example, when we say all S are P, we are assuming that S actually exists. So there are a few more immediate inferences that we can make if we take the Aristotelian standpoint. We can prove these by looking at the different Venn diagrams for an Aristotelian standpoint, but let's just summarize them by looking at the traditional square of opposition. A and E claims are contraries, meaning they can't both be true. I and O claims are subcontraries, meaning they can't both be false. E and O, as well as I, A, and I claims have a subalternation relation. This means truth flows downward, meaning if an E claim is true, the O claim is true, and falsity flows upward, meaning if an O claim is false, then the E claim is true. Any other situation and the truth value of the other proposition would be undetermined. So there is your very brief, very quick summary of some of the main concepts from Chapter 4. The most important thing for you to study as you're learning these concepts is what kind of inferences they can go on to allow. There you have it, some of the main ideas about categorical propositions in under 5 minutes. I know this is a lot, so I encourage you to really take your time, slow down, work through creating the Venn diagrams for each of the type of standard form categorical proposition, get really clear on how to translate sentences into their standard form categorical proposition, and also get really clear on how to tell when you can infer from one categorical proposition to the next. For me, drawing out the Venn diagrams really helps with this, but you may find that something else works better. Good luck.